While everyone's busy chasing the latest meme coin pump or arguing over which layer 2 has better airdrops, something real is happening in the background. Something foundational. And no, it's not on Ethereum. It's not on Solana. It's not even on some buzzy new ZK rollup or AI chain of the week. It's happening quietly, efficiently, and strategically on Stellar. And here's the part most people are missing. Stellar isn't trying to win the crypto hype war. It's not courting influencers or paying celebrities to shill its token. It's not fighting for retail attention. It's doing something more powerful. It's capturing institutional relevance. And now, it's stepping into one of the most overlooked, high-impact use cases in the entire digital asset space: global supply chain finance. Enter Palago Labs. This isn't your average fintech startup slapping blockchain on a PowerPoint deck. Palago is blockchain native, born in the digital asset trenches. And they've chosen Stellar for a reason. Let's be clear, this isn't just about lending money to small manufacturers in Asia. This isn't about digitizing a few invoices and calling it innovation. What's really happening here is the tokenization of global trade infrastructure. We're talking about re-engineering how capital flows across borders, how liquidity reaches emerging markets, how real-world assets become programmable, automated, and composable. The supply chain finance industry, currently worth over $20 trillion, is riddled with inefficiencies, intermediaries, delays, and a complete lack of transparency. And that's exactly what makes it ripe for disruption. But not disruption for the sake of headlines. Disruption with purpose. Disruption with rails. Palago Labs is building those rails. And they've made a calculated move by choosing Stellar as the foundation. Why? Because while Ethereum maxis are still arguing about gas fees, scaling solutions, and validator incentives, Stellar already has what actually matters in the real world: instant finality, low, predictable fees, native asset issuance, built-in compliance tools, global fiat on and off-ramps through regulated partners. This is the infrastructure real institutions care about. Not hype, not speculation, function. And here's where things get even more interesting. This isn't just about building a blockchain app for suppliers and buyers. This is about creating an entirely new programmable financial layer. One where invoices become tokenized assets. One where receivables are instantly tradable. One where smart contracts automate payment settlements, enforce dispute resolutions, and manage escrow across borders, without middlemen. Stellar's built-in asset issuance framework is tailor-made for this. Palago can mint tokenized invoices, tokenize buyer payment guarantees, and create programmable trade credit instruments, all native to the Stellar ledger. No need to reinvent the wheel. No need for layer 2s or bridges. Everything works out of the box. But the real kicker? Liquidity. Tokenizing supply chain assets only works if there's deep, stable liquidity backing them. And that's where Stellar's USDC integration becomes a game changer. With native support for stablecoins and institutional grade on/off-ramps, Palago can inject global liquidity into underserved trade routes with precision. Think about what that means. A small manufacturer in Vietnam can tokenize a $50,000 receivable, sell it to a global liquidity provider on Stellar, and receive USDC in minutes, not weeks. No waiting for bank approvals. No currency conversion friction. No broken SWIFT wires. Just programmable liquidity in real time on a decentralized yet compliant network. And this is just the start. Because what Palago and Stellar are doing isn't a pilot. It's not a proof of concept. It's a strategic rollout of a digital trade finance ecosystem, built to scale, built to integrate, and built to interoperate with the next generation of financial infrastructure. And make no mistake, this puts Stellar on a collision course with legacy trade finance platforms, centralized banks, and even up-and-coming networks like XDC. But the difference is, Stellar isn't just digitizing documents. It's building payments infrastructure at the protocol layer. That's a critical distinction. Tokenized trade assets on XDC still need to rely on third-party off-chain payments. On Stellar, the payments layer is native, seamless, and settlement-ready. Palago's vision is to make trade finance not just accessible, but liquid, transparent, and fully composable with the rest of DeFi and traditional finance. And they're not alone. Behind the scenes, more institutions are waking up to this opportunity. Because when you combine the $20 trillion global trade market with blockchain-native asset issuance, automated smart contract workflows, and stablecoin liquidity, all on a compliant, proven network, you're not just building apps. You're rewriting financial architecture. And right now, Stellar and Palago are laying the bricks. Before we continue, understand this. The institutions already know what's coming. While most retail investors sleep on the evolution of global trade finance, the real money is quietly positioning itself. If you're serious about generational wealth in this space, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because what we're about to uncover on Stellar, Palago Labs, and the tokenization of trillions in trade finance, this is the alpha they don't want you to see. Don't just watch crypto headlines. Understand what's moving behind the scenes. Stellar Network's strategic positioning. Stellar isn't trying to be your next DeFi casino. It's not chasing the hottest DX narrative or competing for speculative yield farming attention. It's playing a completely different game, a long-term institutional infrastructure-level game. While other chains obsess over NFTs, memecoins, and gamified tokenomics, Stellar is quietly positioning itself as the financial backbone for the next evolution of capital markets. Think about that. Not just a blockchain, a settlement layer, a compliance-ready, regulator-friendly financial highway. Here's how. At the core of Stellar's design is the concept of anchors. These are regulated financial institutions that connect the Stellar blockchain to traditional banking systems. They act as trust bridges, allowing fiat currencies like the US dollar, euro, yen, and even more exotic local currencies to move seamlessly on-chain. Anchors can issue stablecoins, provide KYC/AML services, and handle cash-in/cash-out operations across fiat corridors, all while operating under existing regulatory frameworks. That's not theoretical. That's live today. What does that mean in practice? It means someone can send $1 from New York to Nigeria or a euro from Paris to the Philippines with the same speed and simplicity as sending an email. No Swift codes, no bank delays, no $50 wire fees. Just settlement, final and instant. This is what Palago Labs is tapping into. Palago isn't building some shiny DeFi app with cartoon branding and staking rewards. They're building an operational-grade infrastructure layer for global trade. One that allows exporters, freight operators, logistics providers, and institutional financiers to tokenize real-world trade documents, invoices, bills of lading, credit lines, directly onto the blockchain. And not just any blockchain. Stellar. Why Stellar? Because it's not just about digitization, it's about programmability. The moment a trade document hits Stellar's smart contract layer, aka Soroban, it becomes a programmable financial instrument. This is massive. In the old system, a shipping invoice sits in an email inbox or gets faxed to a bank, yes, faxed in 2025, where a middle office clerk manually verifies it, sends it to risk, then finance, then settlement. It takes days, sometimes weeks, for that document to get monetized. But when you tokenize that invoice on Stellar, you flip the paradigm. That invoice becomes a digital token, cryptographically verified, with metadata embedded, issuer, buyer, terms, timestamps, and smart contract logic that can enforce payment conditions automatically. Now, imagine a trade financier in Singapore looking for yield-bearing, short-term, low-risk exposure. That tokenized invoice shows up on-chain, verified, KYC'd, embedded with legal terms, and tradable. That financier can now deploy liquidity within minutes. No intermediaries, no delays, and full transparency. Let's be crystal clear. This isn't DeFi. This is ReFi, real finance. The merging of real-world assets with on-chain infrastructure, backed by enforceable agreements, compliant channels, and programmable value. And guess what that does? It unlocks liquidity. Not speculative liquidity. Productive, sustainable, global liquidity. For small and mid-sized manufacturers who've traditionally been locked out of global financing options due to poor access, slow systems, or simply being too small for traditional banks. Suddenly, a $10,000 invoice from an exporter in Indonesia is no longer invisible. It's visible. It's verified. It's tradable. It's bankable on-chain. And it opens up a whole new capital market for tokenized real-world yield. This is how you fix the broken supply chain finance model. Not with another dashboard or API, but with infrastructure-level change. And here's what makes this different from most crypto narratives. Stellar's not promising this will happen. It's already happening. The rails are live. The anchors are live. The stablecoin corridors are live. The Soroban smart contract layer is in motion. Palago is simply plugging in and scaling. It's taking that existing infrastructure and building an end-to-end trade finance engine on top of it. From invoice tokenization to real-time settlement. From credit scoring to on-chain liquidity provisioning. All programmable. All automated. All composable with traditional finance. Because here's the truth. The future of finance isn't purely decentralized or purely traditional. It's hybrid. It's systems like Palago and Stellar working together to digitize real-world assets, make them liquid, and route that liquidity where it's most needed. And the best part? Every tokenized trade instrument minted on Stellar becomes part of a growing global liquidity pool. A network effect of verified, programmable, real-world financial assets that can be instantly settled across borders, with full compliance and complete transparency. This is how you take blockchain from buzzword to backbone. And Palago, backed by Stellar's institutional-grade rails, is making that vision a reality. Enter USDC, the liquidity layer. But here's the real alpha. All this tokenization talk, smart contracts, trade finance, digitized invoices, none of it matters without one thing: liquidity. And not just any liquidity. Stable, institutional-grade, programmable liquidity. This is where Stellar's deep integration with USDC becomes a game-changer. While other chains flirt with algorithmic stablecoins, synthetic assets, and fractionalized nonsense backed by hopium and vibes, Stellar went the opposite direction. It partnered with Circle, the same Circle that issues USDC on Ethereum, Solana, and now Stellar. But here's the kicker. On Stellar, USDC moves faster, cheaper, and more compliantly. Because Stellar isn't a generalized smart contract playground riddled with gas fees. It's a purpose-built payments layer, designed for finality, interoperability, and cross-border movement of digital dollars. So what happens when you combine that with Palago's trade finance rails? You get programmable capital deployment at scale. A tokenized invoice doesn't just sit there as a glorified NFT. It becomes an active yield-bearing asset. When a financier steps in to fund that invoice, they're not waiting for a bank transfer. They're deploying real USDC over Stellar in seconds with near-zero fees and instant settlement. Whether it's $5,000 for a local textile exporter in Vietnam or $5 million for a global shipping deal out of Rotterdam, the same infrastructure handles both. This is the liquidity layer that makes everything else functional. Because without stable, regulated digital dollars moving in real time, tokenized finance is just a fancy database. Let's be absolutely clear, USDC on Stellar isn't theoretical. It's operational. It's live across a growing network of fiat anchors, from Europe to Africa to Latin America. It's audited, transparent, and interoperable across payment rails. And most importantly, it's regulator-friendly. Palago's early pilot programs are already running with real exporters, real financiers, and real USDC-based settlement. The results? Exporters are getting paid within hours, not weeks. Financiers are gaining exposure to short-term yield on verifiable assets. Risk is mitigated via transparent smart contracts. And regulators aren't breathing down their necks, because every step of the process is traceable, KYC'd, and compliant by design. This is what happens when you stop trying to fight the legacy system and start integrating with it intelligently. Now let's talk comparisons. Comparison to XDC network. What Stellar gets right? Look, we need to address the elephant in the room. The XDC network. Yes, XDC has done solid work in the trade finance tokenization space. Partnerships with TradeFinix, collaborations with the TFD initiative, and a clear narrative around document digitization. Respect where it's due. But here's the raw truth. Digitizing documents is just step one. It's easy to tokenize a bill of lading or an invoice and throw it on-chain. The question is, then what? Where does the liquidity come from? How do you settle the transaction? How does a non-crypto enterprise plug in? How does it comply with AML/KYC? How do you get fiat in and out? That's where XDC starts to fall apart. XDC lacks a native fiat on/off-ramp network. It has no comprehensive stablecoin strategy at institutional scale. It doesn't offer the plug-and-play compliance modules that regulated entities need to operate safely. And for the average user, the UX is still miles behind. So yes, XDC may tokenize the document, but it doesn't power the transaction. That's the missing link. Stellar, on the other hand, delivers end-to-end financial functionality. Tokenize the asset, program it with smart contracts. Hello, Soroban. Back it with stablecoin liquidity. Settle it in real time with regulated fiat ramps. That's not a blockchain experiment. That's a financial infrastructure shift. And the market is noticing. Enterprises aren't looking for hype. They're looking for solutions that just work. Palago Labs didn't choose Stellar because it was trendy. They chose Stellar because it's battle-tested in cross-border payments, integrated with USDC, compliant across multiple jurisdictions, and now powered by next-gen smart contracts with Soroban. That's what you call infrastructure-grade blockchain. Stellar's not pitching a new financial future. It's deploying it right now. And XDC? It may have a piece of the puzzle, but Stellar is building the whole machine. Smart contracts that actually work. Soroban, Stellar's smart contract platform, is another game changer. Built for predictability and performance, it avoids the bloat of Ethereum while offering enough flexibility to power real-world logic. Palago Labs is already using Soroban to create conditional payment flows, escrow-based invoice settlement, and multi-party credit delegation, all without needing custom wallets or insane gas fees. That's institutional usability. That's what gets the banks, hedge funds, and trade financiers to start moving size. Trade finance equals the final frontier. Let's zoom out. Why does this matter? Because trade finance is the final boss of real-world asset tokenization. Everyone's chasing tokenized treasuries, real estate, and equities, but those markets are already relatively digitized. Trade finance? That's a fragmented, opaque mess of documents, brokers, freight forwarders, and local banks. And it's huge. Tokenize that, and you unlock trillions in liquidity. You reduce cost of capital. You accelerate cross-border commerce. You level the playing field for SMEs. And Stellar, with Palago Labs, is leading that charge. Institutional players are watching. You think this isn't on their radar? Think again. IBM already built on Stellar. MoneyGram is live on Stellar. Franklin Templeton chose Stellar to tokenize its money market fund. These are not crypto-native dApps. These are institutions with compliance departments and quarterly reports. When Palago Labs scales, and they will, it's going to be plugged directly into this network of banks, payment corridors, and liquidity pools. And when that happens, the demand for Stellar-based USDC, it goes vertical. The big picture: Ripple, XRP, Stellar, XLM. Now let's touch on the inevitable comparison. Ripple and XRP versus Stellar and XLM. Both were co-founded by Jed McCaleb. Both are targeting cross-border payments. But Ripple is going upstream, partnering with central banks, building CBDC infrastructure, acquiring prime brokerages like Hidden Road. Stellar is going downstream, solving the SME liquidity problem at the grassroots. Two sides of the same coin. Ripple builds the highway. Stellar builds the last-mile delivery system. And when both are in place, global value transfer becomes as simple as sending a text. Don't sleep on XLM. If you're still here, you're not just casually browsing crypto. You're one of the few hunting the signal through the noise. That's rare and powerful. So here's your move. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Because while the mainstream chases hype, we chase fundamentals. And what's happening with Stellar and Palago Labs is fundamental. The digitization of trade finance is not a possibility. It's an inevitability. And those who understand it early will be the ones holding the keys to the new financial system. This is Be Crypto Smart. Stay sharp. Stay early. And we'll see you in the next one.